look elsewhere or a hiring manager, just because that industry experience, even knowing the keyword, it's a lot more valuable and you will catch up a lot faster. So that just keep that guys in mind. So a lot of people say get whatever job you can out of college. If you have the luxury to wait and find in that industry, I would personally advise to do that. And then for both of you, computer science or computer science, electrical engineering. Yeah. Okay, for electrical engineering, I would measure the design projects. I'm assuming you have a lot of design projects, and then a lot of the core principles that you work on. Okay. So I know electrical engineers, for example, they list out a lot of the technology they use. Yes. So I would highlight all the technology that you use. Any programs, even if you're not a master in that program, the ATS systems are designed to pull out the keywords for the job posting. So, for example, I come with finance, right? So our studio modeling and stuff like that, dashboarding, if I put that in my resume, it's going to be brought up. And then that's what recruiters, even if they don't have that advanced ATS system, are going to look for. Recruiters only tend to look for the resumes about 15 seconds before we kind of taught that. It's unfortunate, but especially with today's market, we are getting 200, 300, 400, 500 applicants for one position, and they're all levels. So I would try to highlight those key points, even if you guys don't have the industry experience, the experience as a whole, like working in a company, highlighting those specific abilities. So, for example, what programs do you guys currently use?
Like MATLAB, C++.
SolidWorks, the big one. Yes, these are big ones. Everyone needs it, no matter if it's school-wise, industry-wise. These are applications that are going to be used everywhere. So having some knowledge, just knowing that you know that program and someone else didn't put it in their resume, we're not going to reach to the person that does not have the skill that we need, because time is precious and recruiters are trying to fill the role as quickly as possible to move on to the next one. Or they're working on 20, 30, 40 job postings at once. So those are like very like just harsh realities, to be honest. And then any follow-up question?
Is there like a word limit? And I hear ATS usually prefers one-page resume.
So yes, if you do not have 5, 10 years of experience in working, we would advise to have one page. If you do have 10 years in the field, you can have how much pages you want. We don't really care because you have the experience to back up the page, the links. Yeah. But if you're just how far I wouldn't put anything outside college before that. Like that's a clear no.
Because I was in the Air Force for 14 years.
In that case, if you have military experience, list it. Unfortunately, the truth is a lot of companies are looking for that background to clear out the DNI space. I don't like saying it, but it's an initiative that all companies have, and they are more likely to hire you if you come from you're a veteran. So that's why they ask for that.
What's DNI?
The diversity and inclusion, each company kind of have a statement on essentially.
Right. They have the
where they kind of have to expand, and then that falls into the military space as well. So I would list it.
And then anything before that?
Anything before that, I would personally not list it.
Okay. Well, you had a good question though, because you said you worked on.
Yeah, before the Air Force, I built fire trucks, so it's a lot of mechanical tools usage, like assembly line type stuff.
Oh, I see.
But that was just for a few years from high school before I got into the military.
I see. And then,
so it's like kind of relevant, but it depends on the position.
Yeah, it would depend on the position.
Because like biotech, I don't know. That one?
Well, if you're going for a biotech company that has the manufacturing like placed into it, so Bio-Rad, for example, we produce our own manufactured goods. So we have 10,000 products, but it's important if we have that knowledge. So if you're going to biotech within the manufacturing space, yes, I would list it. Just so they have an idea that you already kind of know the process or the goods and services side of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if it's outside of that, if you're looking in the medical field or biopharma, I personally would not, but it would depend on what you're.
Also, how like cold emails, do they actually work, or is it just some a buzzword that's going around?
In what sense? Like
I mean, I would apply to a position, and then there are places sometimes they do mention the hiring team and their details, like how you would contact them or something, and you just drop a mail to the hiring manager saying, I'm with my details saying that I'm interested and I've applied, and maybe it's more or less like a cover letter, but I feel it's a little informal because you're sending it via mail.
Mhm.
So
Personally, it's a give and take. It depends on the hiring manager or the recruiter's standing.
okay,
Because sometimes if the recruiter is working on a lot of recs,
right,
they just don't have time to review the email. If the recruiter is actually proactive, they would send it to the hiring manager, and then the hiring manager, if they do have time, they would review it. And it's it's a
plus
plus essentially. But a lot of those could be just, as you said it, they're cold emails. They're not guaranteed much. But even if you have a 5% chance, like especially in the market right now, I would do it. Mhm.
And also, how would you suggest that we apply? Like, do we go directly to a company's website and then apply,
So
or we
if you're doing LinkedIn Easy Apply, those don't really work because they're complicated within the ATS system. So I built my ATS system for my company. So we use Iceland, and then other softwares like Workday. They're not integrated or they're not built to work exactly well with third-party vendors. So if you apply on LinkedIn, Indeed, there's what is it, Hire Tool, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor. They work, but they don't work
okay.
depending on the company. It's
Even if the company like, because sometimes I go, because I try to keep an eye on like job boards and things. And like I go to like it says go to apply and then it takes you to Indeed.
yeah, so those are special adjustments they do with their ATS system. Those work perfectly.
Those work.
It's usually with smaller companies that they do that.
Just going to Indeed first and applying.
And then you see the easy apply. It's better just to go to the company's name, go to careers, and then apply directly.
Okay.
And also the companies have to justify their ATS system as a business expense.
Right.
So using third-party vendors it's better for them to apply directly.
Yeah.
Just because we have usually for the companies I work for, so I usually stuck within biotech or retail. So I worked in Daiso as an HR generalist, and then I worked in Dublin for Workday, and we have dashboards where we describe where you come from. If you apply through LinkedIn, Indeed, and so forth. And there's not a bias towards career field. Going to the career website in our page, it's just looks better for the recruiter because their advertising is working. So I personally haven't seen recruiters do that, but there's a chance. Unfortunately, that's how it would work. For smaller companies, I would assume so, or from what I've seen from smaller companies. Larger companies, they just want a huge pool so they could quickly scan. So I would say go ahead and apply, but I think it would be better for you just to go to the career site for there and do.
Yeah, and I had a comment maybe about that, like, so we could use Indeed as a tool to maybe find a job post and then go directly to the company's website and apply there.
Yeah. And then
because I found that one kind of useful, like just looking on Indeed or Glassdoor too sometimes, like just seeing what the culture is like, or like what you get some information from those websites. But I think, like you said, going direct to the company website.
Yes, exactly. And then some LinkedIn posts have the recruiter, as you mentioned, sending them a quick message, like you said. They might not view it, but if they do, for example, if I do have the chance to go in my LinkedIn, just because I'm not a recruiter anymore, I don't really use LinkedIn Recruiter or my LinkedIn as much. But if I do see the message, I go to our ATS system, look at their resume, if they're qualified, I send it over. So
Right.
it is, if they have their name, go ahead and send them a message. If for the off chance they do see it, most recruiters look at your resume in the ATS system, if you're qualified or even seem like a somewhat good candidate in some sense, they'll send it over to someone that could view it longer.
Right.
And then any other questions? Yes.
So like when you say they do cross check our resume with the ATS system, does it mark us like on based on what, like the keywords, or like is there like a percentage, like this resume matches this position, like I don't know, 70 to 90%, like how does that work?
So yes, there's actually a percentage we get for each candidate profile. For the keywords, we get them highlighted, or we could use a search filter where we're just like SolidWorks, and it highlights all the time to use SolidWorks. So we kind of just look at that project or that experience that you have. ATS systems aren't the most advanced things ever. So the percentage, I wouldn't worry about having a percentage mark towards you.
Okay.
Most recruiters from my past work experience and from now, we don't look at it.
Okay.
ATS systems are faulty. We usually scan, but remember, from the most of the time, it's only about 15 seconds.
So like, how do you know which is better? Like, so then what would be the benchmark? Like, this candidate is, I mean, as a fresher, if I'm saying, like, so you take two students who are like fresh out of college and they don't have much experience except for like the college work or the projects that they've done. So how would you, how would you go about saying, okay, this candidate is better than the other?
I see. In that instance, the recruiter will send both resumes out to the hiring manager. So the recruiter doesn't make any actual decisions.
Right.
We just scan the resumes. If the qualifications do match, we send it to the hiring manager. We are not trained to know about mechanical engineering, about electrical engineering, CS, or any other field.
But you can filter out.
But we could filter out if someone even
meets the bare minimum.
The bare minimum qualification. So for that, it would be more on the hiring manager side. And most of the time we will interview to see how knowledgeable you are in those topics. So that's where interviewing as a whole comes as into play. If you can't speak about SolidWorks, about basic questions on SolidWorks that the hiring manager taught us, we're not going to advance you if it's the same exact resume from two fresh graduates. If the other student or newly grad is speaking about the software, like they are professionals, of course, we're going to recommend that person to the hiring manager. Or the next step. And then does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. And then any?
Yeah, so a lot of times I'll see, I guess this is part of like trying to whittle down like what's actually an entry level position versus what's like they a lot of times they say they want 5 years experience and they want X, Y, and Z. But I know that often like that's the perfect candidate.
Yeah.
So if you meet some of that criteria, is it still worth applying?
I would say yes. I would say yes most of the time, but if it's obviously 10 years of experience, it's like the obvious ones that you're not qualified for even 20%, don't bother. I've seen people that have they worked in Target for the past 10 years and then they applied for a senior principal mechanical engineer position because they got I'm like it's more work for us than anything else. Or if it's an obviously senior position like a senior director for mechanical engineering or research and development, and it's an entry-level engineer, it's not
the same.
If you know the software, but it's
a
different role.
Practice.
So I would say if you match even 50-60% of the qualifications, I would shoot for it. Worth trying.
Okay.
And then have you guys been applying currently or just for any position?
Not as much. I was, it's funny. So right now, just to make ends meet, I do carpentry work to get by, and twisted my knee. So I was like, oh, maybe I can find a part-time remote engineering position. So I was thinking about starting to apply for those just to.
And then have you just designed work?
I've thought about that. There's actually a company that I like that does. Have you heard of Rocketbook?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So they had some remote design positions a while ago. I don't know if they still do, but I thought about applying to that just to try.
Yeah, I would highly recommend design work.
Okay.
Even just to master your own.
Yeah, sure.
Especially going into the field, just having the basis or the software or the design skills. No matter what role in engineering, at least for biotech is this interesting thing where even if you're a manager, even if you're like a senior director, biotech is not. There's software companies, there's tech companies.
Right.
They have the luxury for their managers not to do any of the, the dirty work.
Yeah, right.
If you're interested in the medical field, biotech, or not the key players, essentially, it's very stabilized industries. But expect to do that work that you did in school very often. Just because that's how the industry works.
Huh.
So just know that going into the industry.
Yeah.
I know I'm supposed to advocate for biotech, but honestly, I'd rather be honest with you guys. Biotech is not a luxury of you're not gonna have those amazing offices or fancy new technology. It's stable, it's good to work in. If you like the vision, if you like the mission to create medical devices or build anything within the electrical circuits or software or anything on that to help and improve people's life, yeah, do it. If you are passionate about it, do it. But you are not going to get a lot of the luxury. So I would always say go for the groundwork always.
Okay, so you get more like hands-on.
It's a lot of hands-on.
It's always hands-on.
Yeah.
Which is actually prefer that more than eventually I could be a manager, but
yeah, I
right away out of school I'd rather get my hands on.
Yeah, I personally rather go out and do work than just sit. But I know there's a lot of the opposite too, so it would depend on how it works or how the individual person is comfortable with doing it or they're not comfortable with doing it. And then any other questions? Or we could okay.
I'm sorry. I think I did get to speak with a few others, and they said that it's better to have experience outside class. So, but how would we build that experience? Like, I get internships are one thing, but even if for internships they don't ask us to have some kind of experience, so how would we go about online certifications? Do they help, or is there any other way that we can show that we are somewhat specialized in our particular field or that particular tool or technology that we're working on to outside classroom? There are projects, yes, there are assignments. I get the difference, but how do we showcase that? And give us just a one-page resume. So how do we put that across?
So especially for students, projects are the best thing you can do. I say a lot of tech companies, especially the larger tech companies, do really take in those classifications or online courses as as a maybe 1 year of experience or something along those lines. But a lot of the smaller companies, they don't really see the thing. As long as you do have the projects and the showcase of that experience, and especially having start, middle, and finish or designing, I think that's more valuable than having the actual courses, especially if you have to pay outside your education for the courses. I would. They're somewhat helpful, but I personally don't think they're helpful enough for you to purchase anything.
Right.
So that brings a follow-up question. For showcasing your project, you can describe, I delivered X, Y, and Z in your resume, but do you also recommend having an online website or portfolio do people actually look at that? Because I have a website and I need to work on it, but
so it would depend on your major and the job that you're applying for. If you're doing marketing or you're doing graphic design or stuff like that, have a website where you could showcase your work. For mechanical engineers specifically, I usually work with mechanical engineers or in the engineering space to hire. So that's what I'm kind of more focused in. I do touch other fields, like general corporate work, but that kind of mechanical engineering is special because you don't need all that fancy stuff. You just need to showcase that you have the skills of the like SolidWorks or any of the smaller like building and designing work.
Yeah, or like showing like I started a project and completed it in
Yeah.
X amount of time.
Yeah, but
delivered.
remember, always use percentages, timeframes, anything that you could show in amount of time, anything that would show more detail than just saying I finished this. How did you improve it by how much percent? Did you save anyone money? Did you do this? Yeah, would be better.
These are good tips.
And then any questions before we could maybe look at your guys' resumes?
I have one more question. So let's say you have like awards. Would you say we should put that on our resume? Like scholarship awards, awards from like a competition, stuff like that. You think that would be important enough to put on your resume?
What type of awards?
Like an award for winning like a prestigious scholarship,
I think.
or like you won some big competition, or you got like some placement and you're proud of it and you want to put that on your resume.
I'd say if you're straight out of college, put it. Anything outside of 1 year experience, I would remove it. No, I don't personally. For awards, we don't really see them, especially if they're scholarship based, just because it doesn't really showcase any of the work that you've done, especially if you're undergrad. If you're getting these awards at PhD student and master student, I think it'll be a lot more valuable. Just because you would most likely receive it during your tenure as a master or a PhD student. But if they're coming from high school, like getting a scholarship to go to college and stuff like that, I wouldn't put it. But if you're getting them at the professional level, I would include it.
Okay.
Is your award specifically for engineering?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not like
It's not like school.
okay, yeah, because a lot of what I see is people putting the scholarships from high school to college.
No, they're like engineering specific scholarships.
Okay, then yes, I would just mark them, especially if you need space for your resume.
Okay, cool. Because my head already like my is filled up. I'll show you when we get to that.
Okay, yeah, but if you are deciding whether I need this or I should have a longer resume, I would not include them, especially if you're straight out of college.
Oh, I'm not gonna make it longer. I was just wondering, like, is there something less important on there?
Oh, okay.
Branch out in placement for a different category that I also have stuff in, but I just wanna know, is one more important than the other? We'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I think that would be better just to see
Yeah.
like the replay. And then
I had a
Yes.
follow-up. Our LinkedIn profiles actually
yes,
checked out? Okay.
so make sure your LinkedIn profile matches your resume. We will check that. We will always check that. That's the first thing we do actually. If we like you, we'll make sure it matches. If it doesn't match, we'll be like, why? And we're gonna ask you why.
But I've heard that LinkedIn, like maybe it can relate to your resume, but maybe you can expand more on LinkedIn
Yes,
versus.
you can be a lot more specific because we will take more time to look at your LinkedIn than your.
If the resume attracts
Yeah.
your attention.
And then just as like a tip, I wanna emphasize the keywords, use keywords, software, anything that you do use or know how to use, list it. Because if you're not actively applying and you want passive recruiters to come into your.
I just got someone message.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
If you want them to continue doing that, we use LinkedIn Recruiter, Hire Easy. We use keywords, Boolean searches. So if we want someone with a specific design experience,
Mhm.
we literally search up the keywords and then LinkedIn Recruiter removes everyone else that doesn't. So you are automatically disqualified of that search.
I was sort of surprised because like what they're looking for is like more than what I've done, but I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's always works.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
so keywords, like you wouldn't understand how important that is, especially later on in your career. If you want random opportunities to come to you, that's the best way through LinkedIn. Just having keywords, having an active profile too.
Like what are your top like categories to put on your resume? I know like experience and projects are like part number one, then like what's after that you would forget to put on.
Depending. So from my personal experience, if you're straight from out of college, I would put relative coursework. So any coursework that you see that portrays to the job that you're looking for or the industry. So for example, I studied economics and statistics. I wanted to do a financial analyst position. I would do like RStudio. I would keep my coursework would be like RStudio profile management or something like that, or a class that worked around data or something like that.
Or GitHub or
Yeah. So those are like you could add that, especially under your education. So there's a state master's, some kind of engineering coursework, related coursework underneath. So projects and experience. Besides that, I don't want to say add more stuff because realistically that's all they're kind of looking for. But if you feel like you accomplished something very well and want to showcase that, I would showcase that. Do you have a specific example, maybe in your resume that
I put some leadership roles like being a lab manager for our research lab and just being a student mentor during a internship. Yeah, internship during the summer. I put that down.
Yeah, so I think that's perfect. But that could also just be reflected to experience. Because especially if you're doing the lab manager, that's work per se, and an experience that you daily work with. For the student mentorship, if you want to, you could include it, but it's kind of in and out. It would be more your preference, but I wouldn't say that would put you in an advantage from someone else.
Okay.
Any other questions before we? No? Okay, perfect. So how do you guys want to do? Any thoughts?
I wish
should I
I
get
could.
this TV going? And then-
Yeah, we can. I don't know if you guys are willing, or if you guys.
I can be the guinea pig.
No, you can. I'm more concerned about thumbs or tablets.
Because we could also, I could just also go around the room if you guys want.
We're in a small group
Yeah.
setting, that might be.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I don't want to like.
We also need this one or two, like, if someone has something that's like bad, and just
Okay.
no this.
But no pictures, please. No, like, don't have a headshot of yourself in your resume. That's like the worst thing you could do.
There's even some opposite ones from some people.
See, if you're doing design, or not like electrical design, like digital design and so forth. If you're doing a very creative role, make your resume creative. If you're not, let's be realistic. If you're doing engineering, you're doing finance, you're doing IT, you don't need it. So it depends. And then I would say the more new age recruiters would kind of find it interesting. But the thing is, we're gonna go to LinkedIn and see your face anyway. So I would invest more on a personal headshot on LinkedIn than actually having it in your resume, especially if it's taking up space.
Okay.
Do you recommend if we pull up our LinkedIn too, maybe?
Oh, actually, I think that'd be perfect if you guys don't mind.
It's like I said, I did it the other day because I was like hurt my knee and I'm like, well, I might as well like try and find something where I don't have to like use my physical skill.
Did you just recently update me?
Yeah,
Perfect example. The recruiter already reached out.
yeah, it was kind of cool. I was like, oh wow. And like that was today. I was like, yeah, I didn't expect
I got mine. Well, it's my resume.
Okay.
I wish I had like a bigger.
Do you suggest we post our resume on LinkedIn or? Because I've seen few people actually have.
Yeah. It depends. So I think for in your case, because you don't have a current job, yes. But if you're currently employed, I would personally not do that, as they would kind of show your current employer that you're trying to. So personally, I wouldn't post my resume because it could be interpreted wrong. But yeah, but you can.
Like as a post.
On LinkedIn, you actually have if you go to options, you could upload your resume.
Oh, okay. The like create sections.
Yeah, you should be able to do that.
Yeah, okay.